And I know of a case where it's happened to somebody that I'm very close to. And at the time, although it's going back a few years, but at the time when she was trying to highlight it to her mum and her parents, they thought she was talking out of term. So she did not know how to deal with it because they were saying that she was saying the wrong kind of things. And I think sometimes it's about the listening to the child, and also the other part is that when things were happening at school and she was sharing certain things at school, people were picking on her as well. So it's having to, I think we have come a long way where the schools are addressing issues, but for this particular case, although I said it's going back a little bit or going back a while, it's still not too long ago with the young lady in her 20s, but the repercussions and how she's having to deal with this now, knowing it was one of her, it was a parent or a, that was doing the trouble, that was molesting. Yeah. So it is something that still happens. It's the way how people have to deal with it when you know it's somebody, if you're a parent, it's somebody that you potentially probably care about still, and your child is telling you this information. It's training or having to deal with that emotional burden as the mother and separating the two issues. This child's trauma, this child is saying this is happening. Where did you learn that? Because sometimes they may think the child is being troublesome in stating certain things and get told off for even mentioning things like that, because they may think that it's something that they've made up, you know. It's a very interesting question. I'd like to just hear a bit more what everyone else has to say, but I know what I'm dealing with in terms of the aftermath with this particular person right now.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. Yeah. So I can, yeah.
I think it's really difficult. It must be really, really difficult. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything in response to what Antoinette just shared with us, but yeah, just take yourself off mute if you do. But yeah, I think that must be really difficult. And like you, Antoinette, I'm aware of cases similar where it is the parents that's abusive. So then they've got the domestic abuse, but within the domestic abuse, then and after an incident, that the child makes a disclosure and says that actually, I'm saying it as it is, that, you know, dad's been doing this. And that's to both genders, whether it be a boy or whether it be a girl. I've dealt with cases, you know, where it's been, the dad's been abusive, sexually abusive towards the daughter, and sexually abusive towards the son, and the mum has had to deal with that. And, you know, you can't imagine, we can't imagine unless we've experienced it, those emotions for that mother or, you know, a father that has had similar disclosures from their child that mum or dad has been abusive towards them. But, you know, if there is anybody listening today where we've touched a nerve, then, you know, Olu will at the end give you the numbers. We will give you the numbers of whom you can contact. We know, we say each week, it is an emotive conversation. The issues of domestic abuse, child abuse, sexual harassment, it's very emotive and it's not in isolation. Anybody can be suffering, have suffered or suffering from any of the issues that we discuss. And we don't want to open people up and then just leave them and think, you know, just get on with your day after hearing these conversations. We're here to help. We're here to signpost. We're here to be a listening ear, and we'll give you that information at the end. But yes, you know, if you've been in that situation or are in that situation, we appreciate that it must be really, really difficult. And I think you've kind of said that some people not to judge them, that they become, they don't want to accept the disclosure. They might go into denial mode because, you know, it's not something that they're expecting to hear. And that might take time for them to come to that place where they accept the disclosure, if at all. And some people don't, and some people after a while they do. But, you know, people deal with shock and disbelief in all different types of ways. However, our focus would be around supporting them and ensuring that they get the right support and the right listening ear that isn't going to judge them, minimize, discriminate them, belittle, or, you know, belittle their experience, but to validate the experience and say, this was unacceptable. It isn't your fault. This should not have happened to you. There is help. Our language around such disclosures are so important, because it can be the stumbling block from somebody getting the support and the help that they need. If you're the first person that somebody discloses abuse to, then we need to be really careful that we do not try to investigate what they've said, to work out whether it's true or it's false. We just need to ensure that we say, I'm so sorry to hear what you've been through. We want to help you. How can I help you? This is unacceptable. Our language needs to validate their experience. And if we can't do anything thereafter, we get the help that they need from outside if you can't help them yourself. So yeah, I think that, you know, that's really difficult. And just to share something else, that there was once a young lady that was referred to me, and she was in her early 20s, and she needed to disclose domestic abuse. But the domestic abuse that she was talking about was from her father. So she doesn't fall under the child protection in terms of her age. She falls outside of that because she's a young adult, so she could approach the service. So, you know, the abuse towards her was from her dad, but her dad was not, he wasn't provoking or instigating intimacy with her, but what he was doing was almost getting his kicks from having that dominance over the house. You can't put a lock on your bedroom door. There's certain things that you can't do, so that he could walk into the room. Sometimes he'd walk into the room and she'd be compromised because she's in her underwear, she's getting changed. And she felt that he did it deliberately, even though she said, Dad, can you knock? And there'd be times when she'd be in the kitchen and he'd be in the kitchen with her. But because the kitchen was so small, that he would rub against her and make her feel uncomfortable. And she just needed to get away from him.
The kitchen.
Yeah, she needed to get away from him. Because, you know, he was doing things, he wasn't, you know, like I said, instigating intimacy with her, but he was doing things that you wouldn't expect a father to do, nor anybody else really, you know, because when you come to a certain age and children are in puberty, boy or girl, they're allowed to have some privacy, right?
Absolutely.
They are entitled to have some kind of privacy. And when that doesn't happen, you know, you have to question, what are the motives behind you not allowing your child to have that kind of privacy? So yeah, it you know, it happens. It really does.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether there's Garfield, there's Anita has not spoken. Having said that, if you don't want to talk, we can chat. Just wanting to remind our listeners and those who are privileged to connect with us, because we don't connect people on Zoom normally like this. If you go on 97.1 FM, Radio Faza on your browser, you can connect regularly with us on Thursdays at 11 a.m., you know, on this show. And if you want to make contributions, if you use your phone to do the connection, you're going to see this WhatsApp bot you can actually connect to the studio with, ask questions, because we discuss different topics on different Thursdays. And so you might be able to help someone. You may not necessarily be the victim, but you might be able to, you might know someone, just like Antoinette just mentioned now, that the people concerned that she was sharing about are like friends or family or something. So that you could find yourself in such a situation that you are friends or family members who could benefit from some of the things that we discuss on this show. Please extend invitation to them and let them have that awareness that they can connect. And especially on Facebook, can connect on Facebook. Of recent, I think Back in Control says, I'm not sure whether you've done that already. You know, you've been on from their website also, you'll probably be able to connect to this program. So you have various opportunities, various ways of linking up, hooking up with us on behind the screens regularly. And through the help of Veronica, I'm very sure that one of these days we'll have Marjorie back or even hook up with her on some of these projects, because we seem to have similar passion and orientation, and we can actually synergize and have more partnership in some of these things that we're discussing to advance the various causes. And so before we round up today, Veronica, do you have those numbers, those emergency call numbers, telephone numbers
Yes.
that you normally read out to our listeners? Please pick a pen, pick a paper, or do a recording of the telephone numbers that Veronica will be reading out to you, both to support you, which is for our own office in back in control. She'll give you the number. And also during emergency, there's a place for you, like a first port of call, to call urgently if you need an urgent assistance. And this extends to you, all our listeners on the radio show now.